Let's talk about laptops. Whether you're a gamer, content creator, tech analyst, data analyst, teacher, or whatever, you probably need some kind of computer. And whilst desktop sales are slowly dropping, laptop sales actually spiked in 2022, with Statista reporting over 200 million units shifted in 2020. There are laptops everywhere, but not all laptops are created equally, and that's what I want to delve into today. Hi, I'm Ryan Thomas, a repair tech by day and a sleep-deprived student/YouTuber at night. I work on laptops day in, day out, doing anything from replacing hard drives with SSDs, to installing antivirus, to repairing base plastics, to upgrading components. The laptops that I really don't like working on are the cheap little Chromebooks, the supermarket resale rubbish. I've featured these on the channel a couple of times now, but basically the storage, the memory, the ports, the sockets, the wireless cards, they're all soldered onto one tiny motherboard, and if one thing fails, it tends to take it all with it. And with an incredibly limited supply of parts, sometimes no supply at all, these things drive me up the wall. They're really appealing to low-income households because they're £150 to £200, but what people don't see is the fact that you may have to replace that within 9 to 12 months. And they can end up in landfill before some better-made laptops' break-in periods end. Unupgradable, unrepairable, cheap rubbish. On the other end of the spectrum, the laptops that I really like working on are the ones that are, say, 3 to 8 years old. These tend to have separate, replaceable components for stuff like the memory, the storage, port daughterboards, touchpads, keyboards and palm rests, DC sockets, wireless cards, you name it. Side note, you may not believe how many times repairs have come in the past 9 months where the fix has been to replace the Wi-Fi card. Yeah, it's worrying. These systems usually last way longer because they're more serviceable. You may have to replace a part here, a part there, spend maybe £100 every other year, but you end up with something that, one, isn't just going straight into landfill, and two, is something you don't have to migrate data from, you don't have to get used to a new layout, you don't have to buy a new case. These are just keeping the laptop going. Suddenly, that £500 laptop you bought has lasted nearly 10 years, where you may have purchased 4 or 5 of those cheaper machines in that time. But that isn't to say that you should just straight up spend more money on a laptop. More modern laptops like MacBook Pros and Razer Blades also have soldered components, unfortunately. Yes, they are made to a better standard, but the motherboards tend to house pretty much all the components, and those motherboards can be pretty hard to find. When you do find them, you'll look at the price and immediately regret your initial purchase. These things are crazy expensive due to just having all the components on the board. This is where framework laptops and the new HP EliteBook come in. You may have heard of the former from YouTube behemoth Linus Tech Tips, and the latter because, Linus did a video on it. These are high-end laptops starting at around £800 to £900, but they do give you the upgradability of those laptops I mentioned earlier, the ones with replaceable port boards and memory and storage. Framework offers a DIY option where you can actually go in and choose your spec, or just leave bits out and supply your own. You can also bring a power adapter if you want as well. It's a really neat and refreshing way of selling your product, and I appreciate it. One of the coolest things about Framework is that when you swap out your motherboard, you can buy a small enclosure for them to put it in, and essentially you have a small desktop made out of your old motherboard, providing another way to upgrade parts without the need to go and just buy another laptop, and it's one fewer part that would just be going to landfill. HP's EliteBook 845G9, like other older EliteBooks, is meant to be more replaceable and upgradable too, with non-soldered memory, storage, Wi-Fi and ports on daughterboards. These machines offer high-end AMD CPUs and GPUs and cost more as a result than the Framework offerings, but don't offer the same kind of DIY options, as the HPs are more marketed at businesses, whereas Framework's brand feels more enthusiast-centric. The fewer parts that end up in landfill, the better. E-waste is one of the fastest, if not the fastest growing issue in the climate right now. It's something that we need to proactively make a difference with, need to tackle head on, and electric cars are not helping with that. Having to chuck a machine away because no parts are available just feels unbelievably wasteful, and to those of you with the skills and knowledge to be able to micro solder as well, you have my respect, because board level repair takes a lot more effort and expertise than I currently possess. So should we be heralding Framework and HP for their interchangeable, serviceable and upgradable laptops? Well, yes and no. See, most older laptops were repairable in the first place. You'd be surprised by just how upgradable and serviceable Macs were until 2015. There's not really any need for machines to be fully soldered. It may cost less to the company for manufacturing, but the user appreciable benefits are nowhere to be found. I'm in two minds because, on one hand, this shouldn't be a problem, and we shouldn't need to solve the problem. But at the same time, the fact that these two companies are going against the mold and saying F you essentially to everyone else in creating these more sustainable laptops, I think they're doing a good job, and I like the fact that they have the stones to do it. As much as I disagree with Linus on a fair few things and haven't appreciated the changes that he's made to his content or style of content over the years, I do appreciate that he put his money where his mouth is when it comes to framework. I mean, he put $250,000. He can probably afford it, but there we go. If I had £1,000 to spend on a brand new laptop, I'd probably go out and get a framework actually. They look really cool and I like the fact that you can change stuff out in them. However, I would just say this. If you're looking at buying a computer or any piece of tech, buy a good refurbished or used item. Now, I know that sounds crazy to a lot of you, but that does even more, for the environment than just simply going and buying a more sustainable laptop. I really want to delve into the impact on the environment for buying used products, but essentially, you're really helping out by reusing something that someone else has used for a long time and thought, you know what, it's time for me to move on. You pick up that product that's pretty much perfect and still get to use it. You make more life out of something that would usually just go in the bin. My ThinkPad cost me £250 and I'm sure it cost a lot more when it was brand new, but the fact that I picked it up a while ago and was able to get so much use out of it, I'm still using it in work today. And that would have ended up in the bin. But £250 got me a really nice little laptop. I'm hugely behind not allowing something to go to waste and instead reusing and refurbishing it. It's my day job and I love it. Replacing a broken keyboard after a coffee spillage, unplugging the CMOS battery for 5 minutes to fix a boot issue, and seeing a customer's response when their 5-year-old laptop with a shiny new SSD boots up in seconds is a pleasure. So many people these days, based off of influencer culture, just go, I need that shiny new thing. And it's just such a waste because you don't need that shiny new thing. Make, do and mend is something that we're probably going to see more of going forward due to the world climate. And I think that's only a good thing. Not the world climate, but the make, do and mend bit. And with that, I want to leave today's video, guys. That's pretty much how I feel on the matter. It is important that these laptops come out with the interchangeable parts, but I do feel like that shouldn't be a problem that we needed to solve in the first place. Good job to Linus for putting his money where his mouth is. I'm sure not a lot of people would go and do that even in his position with the amount of money he has. And good job to HP as well for providing stuff that is upgradable and interchangeable. I mean, we've seen this in EliteBooks of the past, and it's nice to see them keeping that trend going forward. Thank you all so much for watching. Do link all the links. Massive shout out to my patron for being continually supportive. Check out my podcast. I just released another episode with 91 Tech. Really good podcast. Check that one out. I've been Ryan Thomas, and I'll catch you later. Peace.